Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, let's talk about spawning bass and the baits to catch those fish when they're on the bed. Now, you know, this video is essentially just my opinions on some of my favorite baits. Obviously, you can pretty much pitch whatever bait that you want to a fish on the bed, whether you're visually looking at them or you just know that there's fish in the area on bed. You know, you could pretty much throw anything. But there are some principles that I kind of follow when it comes to spawning fish. And the number one thing that I think of when I'm looking for a bait to use to pitch on the bed is, number one, is it gonna piss that fish off? If it is a profile that just tends to really irritate those fish and put them in a real bitey mood, that is going to be a design that I like. So baits that imitate bluegill, which are enemy number one for bass during the spawn. You know, crayfish, which also can invade the bed and start picking up those eggs. Amphibians, those are all different types of forage species that really are a nuisance during the spawn. You know, shad are not that big of a nuisance for these fish, but those species that would actually go in there and try to eat the eggs off the bed, those are exactly the type of profiles that I like to throw on the bed. So most of the baits that I'm going to be throwing are imitating those type of forage species. The second thing that I'm really paying attention to is a more compact design. So one of the struggles with bed fishing is, especially when you're sight fishing, is those fish are generally pretty sketched out. They're not really willing to like just choke a bait right off the bat. There's some times that they do, and they're very aggressive, but a lot of times, more often than not, you're going to be experiencing a fish that has probably been, harassed quite a bit, if you want to say that, and so those fish are not in a real biting mood. You have to really coax them, and one of the things that these fish will do is, because they're trying to protect the bed, they may not want to eat the bait and really inhale it. So what they'll do is they'll pick at the end of the bait, so where the hook isn't, and they will just swim it off of the bed and drop it. So you will get a lot of short strikes. And when you have a bait that's very, very long, and you know, and lengthy, like a straight tail worm or a lizard, or a lot of these baits that are just longer in general, a lot of times that can be a very, very frustrating bait to actually get a hook in a fish. So I generally like to throw more compact presentations overall. That's not to say that a big, long presentation can't be used to really irritate those fish. In fact, some of the best type of baits to get a fish ready to bite include a big swim bait. You can pitch that onto the bed, really irritate them. A lot of people will cut the hook off because they know that the odds of them losing the fish is pretty high with the swim bait, especially with a treble hook, or at least, you know, hooking the fish on the outside of the mouth. So they might pitch it in with a hookless swim bait, get those fish really irritable, and then pitch in with another bait that has a more compact, presentation overall. So let me show you some of my favorite baits that I like to throw on the bed. These are pretty much the ones that I reach for the majority of the time. So let's start with these two right here. So this one right here is the Holocross from ZMan. All right, so yeah, it's got some appendages to it. It's got these claws here, but overall, it's a very, very compact design. So the hook that I'm going to be using is usually a Hayabusa 959 with this, and it's pretty much going to cover the entire length of this body. And so the hook is pretty prominent on the bait overall. So usually I'll have a good hooking percentage. And I really like this bait because it sits straight up with that Elastec being so buoyant and puts those claws straight up, which is a pretty aggressive defense position. And those fish generally will grab those. But like I said before, because these claws are so big, they also present a pretty good target for the fish to grab the claws and miss the hook entirely. So that's one of the baits that I like. Another one that I really like is the goat. So the goat, Billy goat, that's a really good one. right here. And obviously I work with ZMan, I'm sponsored by them. So these are ZMan baits, you know, but similar designed plastics will work. Similar designs in pretty much any brand. The reason why I really like the Elastec though while fishing on the bed is the buoyancy. I really like the fact that this bait will stick straight up as opposed to want to just kind of lay on the bottom, kind of stagnant. It actually has a lot of action by just sitting straight up like that. And to me, having a bait float up in a defensive kind of position is really key during the spawn. It may not even be a defensive position. It might just look like a bluegill that's nose down in the bed trying to eat those eggs. So that's the reason why I really think that you should at least look at Elastec baits for bed season. You know, bed season especially. But the Goat is another one that's really good. The legs are a little bit smaller of a target for them to grab. Still something that they can grab. You can still use that Hayabusa 959 in there. But it's an overall really good one. Yeah, I use this one quite a bit too. Another one that I really like, and this one is just my favorite flipping bait of all time pretty much, is the palmetto bugs. The palmetto bugs is really good for bed fishing for the same exact reasons that the other ones are, but I really like this one because I think it has a better bluegill profile. It really imitates those bluegill very well, but it can also just as easily imitate a crawfish as well. But I really like this one for spawning fish a lot. This was the one that I got a top 10. I got 6th place at the tour event on the Harris chain, and all my fish were bedding that I weighed in that event. So that's another good one. All right, so this is the one that is actually become my favorite for bed fishing. So over the last 4 years, I've really started bed fishing more. And I started experimenting with a lot of different baits. And there's certain profiles that just seem to irritate bass more than others. And this one right here is the ZMan boar hogs. It's kind of like a brush hog style bait. It's got these 2 appendages that create a lot of movement at the end. And I think it really imitates a lot of different insects or amphibians and even crawfish very well. But for some reason, the bass, you know, I could pitch all different types of baits on the bed, and then I pitched the boar hogs on there, and they just hate it. So this has been actually pretty much my favorite bed fishing bait in the last few years. But really, really good bait. Usually use a 3/0 Hayabusa on that one. Maybe a 4/0 because it is a spawn. The last one is a little bit different. So if I'm fishing for smallmouth, spots, or even largemouth that just seem to not be responding to larger baits, I'll throw the Ned rig at them. All right, so the Ned rig, this is the Finesse TRD. This one works really, really good for multiple reasons. Number one, it's a lot smaller. The fish are a little less scared of it, and also when they bite this thing, I mean, it's so small that the odds are that they have to inhale the whole thing. So it's very hard for them to just nip the tail of it and move it away. They usually will actually inhale this bait a lot better. So I'll be using a bigger hook with it. I usually use the Pro Shrooms, which has a heavier gauge wire, and the hook is a little bit bigger to help me get good solid hook sets with that. But the TRD can work really, really well. And it's my absolute favorite for smallmouth in particular. You know, if I'm going up to Lake Champlain or any of those northern lakes, or even, you know, here at Cherokee in Tennessee, the Ned rig and the TRD work wonders. But anyways, guys, those are just some of my choices for bed fishing this time of year. The biggest keys are making them compact and making them imitate the type of forage species that are really irritating those bedding fish. But anyways, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this topic, and what baits you would throw on the bed and have had a lot of success with during spawning season. Or even if you'd fish for fish on the bed. I know that is a hot topic and a lot of people don't like to do it. I generally don't do it if I'm not during a tournament, but I gotta admit, it is pretty fun. But anyways, guys, if you want to support the channel, Couple ways you can support the channel. Number one, ask questions. I come up with content based on questions I get from viewers. So drop a comment below with your question and hopefully I'll get to your video. Also use the affiliate links in the description below to go purchase the products that I talked about. You get 10% off your order and it helps support the channel. And then finally, just hit that subscribe button. That motivates me to keep doing these videos, which I really, really enjoy. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and trust the process. I'm going to see you out on the water.